All right, you know what? This is a perfect. I mean, Peter joined at a perfect time. I mean, he just did. I mean,
Halloween too. I mean,
Peter joined when the vibes are the highest, and we're gonna bring him on. If you guys don't know already who he is, he's gonna help us here break down this upcoming game this weekend. He's the co-founder of the league, host of Locked On Packers and Locked On Sports Today, and that is Mr. Peter Bukowski. Peter, how you doing, my man?
No one said dress in costume. I would have stayed in costume. I had my kids out today. We were trick-or-treating. Like I had the costume on. I changed to come on here. What the hell?
That, you know what? That's on me.
Can we ask what you were? What did you dress up as this year, Peter?
Well, so I have a 4-year-old and a 16-month-old. So we were all characters from Paw Patrol.
Nice.
I was riders, but I had the hair was a little higher to like mimic the rider hair, like just right like that. And the vibes were high. It was a good time.
I love that. You know what? That's on me. I take the blame for that one, Peter. That's on me. I do want to pick your brain, man. You're the perfect guy to talk to here. Big game this upcoming weekend for the Lions and for the Packers. We think the two best NFC teams playing right now, with how each team is playing currently. I want your thoughts. We'll start with the quarterback, Jordan Love. He practiced today. Obviously, it looked like it was raining outside. That's probably going to be the case this weekend. Your kind of thoughts on whether he's close to, if not as much as he can be, to 100%, and your confidence that he'll go out there and kind of take care of business. What's your confidence in Jordan Love's health this week?
My understanding right now at this moment is that he's going to play, that the plan is that he will play. How much he can do, how much he can move, I think that's going to be a big question in the rain. You mentioned it. You know, practicing on Thursday in the rain, I think was a big vote of confidence for the team, given how much the risks increase of slipping and those kinds of things where you can all of a sudden slip and that groin injury, you know, you go into the splits a little bit and all of a sudden you're like, oh, that's how you hurt your groin to start with. I think that tells you that he's in a good place right now. When you go back and you look at that week 4 game, Minnesota, he moved pretty well in that game. And that was off an MCL injury where we're talking about the stability of the leg. If he's practicing on Thursday in the rain, I think that's a pretty good indicator that he's going to be good to go, barring no setbacks, of course. Like we have to get to Sunday, that he's going to play. And then the question becomes, can they do the things offensively that they really want to do in this Matt LaFleur offense? Can they get to the under center play action game that has been so useful for this team over the last 2+ seasons? Can they get to some of those boots and rollouts? Can Jordan Love extend plays against pressure when the Lions bring extra bodies? I think that's going to be crucial in deciding how well the Packers can move the ball and ultimately who wins this game, because we saw against the Lions on Thanksgiving last year, Jordan Love, for most of that game, he played on time, but there were a handful of snaps, 5-6 plays where we saw him extend. He rolls to his right. He throws back across his body to Malik Heath or whatever it was. Those plays, that is part and parcel of the Jordan Love experience. If you don't have that, that's a major weapon that you're just missing from his game.
Right.
Yeah. And Peter, I do want to ask you, and I'm going to be honest. Hey, Peter, you caught us at a bad day with the Halloween stuff. Every time I see myself, I can't, I'm just like, I don't know if I could take myself serious. So I do appreciate you taking us serious today on this one day.
Well, we'll see.
It's tough. I do want to just ask you, because I noticed today at the practice report, it looked like Jair Alexander was not participating. Yeah. Just defensively, and with all, because you guys, the Packers have added some good pieces to this defense, and Jair Alexander obviously has been a piece for a while there. What is he going to play on Sunday? Like, what's going on with that injury? And then even on top of that, just like defensively, slowing down the Lions' offense. Obviously, the last few weeks, it's been, 40-something points per game over the last 3 or 4 weeks. What are your thoughts on them, and what do they have to do to be able to slow the offense down here?
Yeah, the Jair Alexander loss would be a big one. What was interesting is he looked like he felt something pull or tweak or whatever it was on the last defensive play of the game against the Jaguars. But then after the game, he's cheesing for the cameras. He's walking off. He's okay. Now, you don't know. It's Jair Alexander. Like, he's going to flex whenever he has an opportunity to flex. But was there swelling in the knee? We don't really know what the injury is at this point. It's a knee injury. They did some imaging, no major issues, but if there's swelling, if there's pain, you kind of just have to manage that right up until game time. He seemed to have a really good workout the morning of the Vikings game back in week 4, and he still couldn't go. And so I do wonder about that, though. I will say The Evan Williams injury, for Lions fans that are not familiar with Evan Williams, changed that, because when you look at the Pro Football Focus grades, 4 of the top 5 highest graded safeties in the league this year will be playing on Sunday. Brian Branch, Kirby Joseph, Xavier McKinney, and Evan Williams. Evan Williams is 5th of that group. And it's a pretty stacked safety room for both teams. The Packers are terrific at defending the middle of the field, 3rd in DVOA against the pass, defending the middle of the field, which is right where the Lions want to attack you, with Sam Laporta, with Amon-Ra St. Brown. And we'll see what the Jameson Williams loss does to the way that they're able to impact the game against the Packers. I think what this means, regardless of whether or not Evan Williams can play, is Green Bay is going to be, because of the loss of Jameson Williams, is going to be able to play a lot of single high, which is what they want to do anyway. And that is how they take away the middle of the field. They get those extra bodies in the middle of the field and they muck things up. And Evan Williams has been a big part of that. If he can't go, they've got Javon Bullard, who's also played terrific football this season. He was the starter at safety. They had some injuries at corner. They moved Keyshawn Nixon outside. They moved Javon Bullard to the slot where he played at Georgia. And then they moved Evan Williams into that strong safety spot. So if Evan Williams, I think Jair Alexander is a better player than Evan Williams, but I think Evan Williams in this game is actually a more important player for the Packers defense to be able to go.
What's going on, Peter? I look ridiculous. This single shot isn't great here. But I have a question more about, the whole season and the Packers as a team instead of really tomorrow. This is tough. I'm not going to lie.
It's tough representation of the Lions here. I mean, this is tough.
Green Bay coming into the season, Green Bay had one of my favorite receiving cores in Wicks, Reed, Watson, and Dobbs. How important is it? Well, I said, they're probably 4 wide receiver 2s, and I think that's that's better than having a number 1 and then just a huge fall off there. How important is it for this young offense and these young receivers for them to be unselfish? And you haven't seen one of them come out and say, I want the ball more. I want more targets. How important is it as a team and for Jordan Love that these guys are playing unselfish? Some games Romeo Dobbs might have 4 targets. Some games he'll have 8 and you never hear him talk about it. How important is that for a young team?
Well, I don't want to add insult to injury on the clown costume currently, but Romeo Dobbs a couple weeks ago was suspended for a blow up that he got with the coaches for wanting the ball more. And so unfortunately it is the case that there has been some of these issues. Now, Romeo Dobbs, the weird thing about all of this is that Romeo Dobbs, if you were to like have me put together a poll of the players most likely to get in a screaming match with Matt LaFleur over his usage, Romeo Dobbs would have been like 18th on the list. Like I would have picked backup running backs and 4th string tight ends before I would have picked Romeo Dobbs. So it is a little bit weird, but what's interesting is since then, he's been a featured part of this offense and a huge, useful part of the offense. Go back and watch them against Tennessee. And he was Derek Stingley one-on-one, and they're just like, we don't care. We'll just throw it to 87 because he's going to be open. And guess what? He caught 5 or 6 just slants, just like you versus me kind of plays, man coverage, one-on-one. I'm going to take this down. And he did it. And I think, he is that guy in this offense. We just need you to win one-on-one guy. Dontavian Wicks can do that a little bit, but they usually like to use him in this schemed up role because he's better than Dobbs after the catch. They've got Christian Watson, who's that deep threat. And then they have Jaden Reed, who specials, reverses, end arounds, put him in the backfield like a running back, little crossing routes, and then he can be a deep threat from the slot. You mentioned the idea that, hey, everyone eats. This is the most egalitarian offense in the league, where it's just like 1 week it could be Dobbs, 1 week it could be Christian Watson, 1 week it could be Jaden Reed. And you didn't even mention Tucker Kraft. Lions fans got very mad at me before the season when I said the Packers with Tucker Kraft and Luke Musgrave, I would rather have that than just Sam Laporta. And look, I think Sam Laporta is an awesome player, but it was my faith in those 2 guys. And Tucker Kraft has really paid that off this year. He's been spectacular this season. I mean, he looks frankly like the second coming of George Kittle. I think both of them are really good. Don't get me wrong. I think Sam Laporta is an awesome player, but Tucker Kraft has really broken out in a way that even I would not have been like, yeah, I think he's going to be like the 3rd best tight end in the league this year. But I think you can make that kind of case for Kraft this season because of everything he does, run game and pass game.
And Peter, one last one for me here. The backfield for the Lions. All right, the deadly duo. You got Jahmyr Gibbs, you got Dave Montgomery. We think, at least I'll speak for it. I think they're the best backfield in the league in terms of duo. You guys have a top 10 rush defense. It seems like the Lions and the Packers both hang their hat on that. What's kind of your, I guess, early thoughts on that matchup there on the road, especially in that type of weather, dealing with those two backs in the best offensive line in football?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a huge challenge for this defense. And Matt LaFleur talked about it, and he has a huge amount of respect for this offensive line, for this running game. David Montgomery, of course, his whole career, Packer fans have seen him, twice a year, every year for his whole career. I mean, that's a pretty rare thing for a guy to change teams, and you still have to see him twice a year because he stayed in the division, right? So the running game has been something that the Packers have given up some explosives. And I think that's going to be the key on Sunday is, if you're going to give up some of these runs where you get 5, 6, 8, that's fine. What you can't do is what happened last week. And Jahmyr Gibbs is a really explosive back. Like, he's going to get 70-yard runs. You can't have those. That's the key for Green Bay. And I think the Packers are going to play a lot of single high. Again, I mentioned no Jameson Williams. The reason Jameson Williams is so critical for this offense is he makes teams have to play you two high safeties. And then that makes the running game easier. That opens up the middle of the field, especially if you're playing cover 2. Like, hey, here's Sam Laporta and Amon-Ra St. Brown in the middle of the field. Do you have a linebacker who can run and cover well enough to handle that? And most teams, the answer is just flat out no. So if the Packers are going to be able to play single high because Jameson Williams is not in the game, and we'll see, what happens next with Jameson Williams after this strange story with the gun in the car. It's not his car, but the police are investigating. I mean, we'll see. We don't know any of the details down pat for sure right now. So I'm not going to speculate or make any, sweeping generalizations about that, but he's not going to play in this game. We know that. And I think it does change the way the Packers can play the Lions. They have not been good, the Packers, stopping run offenses with 2 high safeties, but they have been really good stopping rush offenses with 1 high safety. And so I think that if they are able to play single high defense in this game, it is going to go a long way in slowing down this offense for the Lions. And remember last year, Thanksgiving, the last time these two teams played, the Packers pressured Jared Goff on over 40% of snaps. I believe they forced 3 fumbles. It might have been 2, and they only recovered 2 or whatever it was, but they were able to get after Jared Goff in that game with essentially this same group of guys. The Packers have not played as well this year as they did last year up front with just rushing 4. But I do think that is good muscle memory for this group. And Matt LaFleur was pretty out front saying the Packers have to pressure Jared Goff if they want to win. So we'll see what lengths they're able to go to make that happen.
Well, it's Rashawn Gary, dude. I mean, my gosh, he's a problem. Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, so then a lot of the defensive line there. I do want to just flip the sides.
Preston
of the ball
Smith
here.
got Penei Sewell last year for a sack fumble. So it's not.
I think that was the one that he had all season was him, which is brutal.
It's like a 31-year-old guy that's just a wily vet making a great play. And Preston Smith, I saw. I'm gonna forget his name. Russell Brown, is that his name? Shoot.
Yes. Russell Brown.
He's a Bears fan, and he's a great follow on Twitter. I'm sorry, Russell, that I couldn't remember your name there for a second. It's been a long day trick-or-treating with the kids. But he mentioned that the swim move last week, Preston Smith against the Jags, he hit it a couple times, that same swim move that he got last year, and he was this close to getting Trevor Lawrence. So he's starting to tune up a little bit. I think it's going to be a fun game this week to see what Jeff Iafrate does. Jeff Iafrate's never played this Lions offense, never played Ben Johnson, never faced Jared Goff. So it's a little bit of an unknown going up against what is a very much a known quantity. I think the most explosive, the most annoying offense to face from my perspective in the NFL right now, that's not Green Bay, is what's happening in Detroit, because this offensive line is just they're so freaking good.
Yep.
Yeah, and Peter, you said an annoying offense. I think the Packers have had a pretty good offense, especially Josh Jacobs. I mean, he's been very good this year from at least the games that I've watched, and kind of going back and looking at this. What do you expect out of Josh Jacobs? Because obviously, like, the Lions' run defense over the last about year and a half has been one of the best in the NFL, but the last 2 weeks, the Lions run defense has given up a lot. And it seems like that's maybe a way that the Packers will be able to take advantage of and get points up. What are your thoughts on that? And how do you see this offense kind of sticking with the Lions offensively?
Yeah, the Lions run defense 8th in DVOA this year. You mentioned a couple weeks ago I think they were top 5. I think they were top 3 in run defense. And a lot of that is a credit to the way that they built this thing. I mean, Owen McNeil is a terrific player. They bring in DJ Reader and they have some depth up front. And so I think the Packers are going to have to run on the edges. I think that they've shown that they can do that. If you go back and watch that Colts game with Malik Willis, they attacked the Colts in every way you could possibly attack a team from a run defense standpoint. I mean, it was single wing high school stuff. And the Packers were able to install it in a week with a backup quarterback and just run the daylights out of the ball. So there is some similarities here with these two teams where you just go, if either one of these teams wants to just run it 40 times, they can probably put up 200 yards of offense. That's just the way that these teams are built. It's the way that these coordinators and play callers are able to call the game. And it's the quality of the backs that each of these two teams have. I mean, we saw the Packers. Chris Brooks is a name that Lions fans probably don't know. A lot of Packer fans don't know. Came in last week and gave them a bunch of really good reps, not just in the run game, in the passing game, in the pass block game, the protection game. And they just like, it doesn't matter. Next guy. Marshawn Lloyd, you draft him in the 3rd round. He can't play. He's hurt, been hurt all year. Next guy up, Emmanuel Wilson, undrafted free agent from a couple years ago. He couldn't really play last year because he didn't have the nuances of the game, wasn't quite big enough. He puts on a little bit of weight. All of a sudden, pass protection. He's almost better than Josh Jacobs at times this year. So the Packers can attack you in so many ways. And I think the 38-yard touchdown last week to tie the game for Josh Jacobs, that was one of those where, it's meant to go to the right side. And they pull the guard around Elton Jenkins, Pro Bowl caliber guard, and Josh Jacobs doesn't follow him. And he said after the game, like, if you don't follow the guy on a play like that, on a power pull play, you better score. Like, you better create an explosive. And he did. He made 2 guys miss, shrugged off a tackle, and it's a 38-yard touchdown out the gate. Those are the kinds of plays that Josh Jacobs can give you. We've seen David Montgomery make similar kinds of plays. I know that I've gotten killed from Lions fans before for some of the things that I've said about David Montgomery. I understand that. I think he's a good player. I think he's a nice player. I probably undersold the quality of David Montgomery over the course of his career. I will cop to that. But at the same time, I think the combination of those two guys is really what makes this Lions game special. And I think for the Packers, it's the combination of the play caller with the guys that you have. Jaden Reed can create explosives in this game. Christian Watson can create explosives in the run game. Emmanuel Wilson, I mentioned, throwback screen against the Titans a couple weeks ago. They create an explosive that way. So it's 2 of the best, like 5 play callers in the game. And I think that makes running the ball easier because you're always going to get favorable looks in those situations.
Well, I'll ask you, Peter, to kind of close it out here. You got a score prediction? What's your score prediction for this Sunday?
Oh, man. It's so tough right now because we don't know who's going to play. I like I said, I do believe Jordan Love is going to play. It's so, like, if I thought Evan Williams was going to play, I would love to come on this show and predict the Packers to win. But I just can't do that right now. And it hurts me physically to do that. My fans are mad at me. I did a line Locked On Packers, Locked On Lions crossover show, and I picked the Lions, and my fans are like, "Oh, you're the Locked On Packers guy. Like, how could you pick the Lions?" It's like, bro, I like to be right. That's the thing. Is I care about more about that than anything else. But I have said I think this is one of those like 27-24 kind of games, 30-27 kind of games. Yeah. It's going to be close. It's just hard for me right now to think that the Packers can get enough stops against this team when I don't know if Jair Alexander and Evan Williams are going to play. If you told me those guys are going to play and they're going to be something close to 100%, then yeah, I think that the Packers offensively can do a lot against this defense. I think they are one of the better teams equipped to attack this defense because when Jordan Love has time, he's gonna pick you apart. But I don't know that they're ideally set up right now to do that. So it's gonna be a close game. I think it's gonna be an exciting game. If the Packers don't pee down their leg in special teams, it's gonna be a close game, and we'll see. But yeah, 30-27, that kind of thing. I think over. The over is like only like 46.5 or something like that. Like,
hammer that over.
It's not as high as I would have thought it was, but I think I would take if I'm going to bet on one thing, I'm just going to take the over in this game and just enjoy it because I think that's where we are. But at the same time, like if it's 56 and rainy, I don't know, man. Like that's where things get crazy. If you're the favorite, you do not want rain. And for the Bears, geez, if for the Lions, I think that's the question that you have. Jared Goff, his little baby 9-inch hands, like, is he going to drop the ball once or twice? Like, I don't know. Like, that could be how the Packers get in this game. We saw again that Thanksgiving game. They got him on a couple sack fumbles. If it's raining and kind of chilly, that's the best case scenario for the Packers, because you might be able to create a sack fumble at the 20-yard line, and all of a sudden that's an easy way to score some points to even the score there. So that could be the difference in this one.
Yeah.
Peter, I say it all the time. One of my things in the NFL is win the turnover battle and you win the game. These two teams are the top two teams right now in the NFL in turnovers. So it's going to, whoever gets the most turnovers. I mean, we might see like 10 turnovers in this game, especially with the rain. Who knows? It's a thrilling game.
I hope not.
I hope not, but hey, it makes it for a little bit of a thrill.
Hey, Peter, we appreciate you. You guys can check out Peter at Peter_Bukowski on Twitter or X, whatever that you call. But Peter, we appreciate you, my friend. Good luck this weekend, and keep up the great work.
All right, guys.
There you go.
Appreciate it, Peter.
Appreciate Peter joining the program. I mean, he tried to take it as serious as he could. I mean, I'm in a Tigger costume, and you got Bam Bam, and you got a clown. Hey, what's going on there? It's Jeff Iafrate. Appreciate you for finishing the video. You can check out one of the videos here suggested, or show support by commenting, liking, and subscribing. And buy your merchandise, FisherCTSports.com.